Hey, it's Conrad Thompson, and you're listening to Be the Man. And of course, we couldn't do it without the Hall of Famer himself. Ladies and gentlemen, the greatest of all time, the Nature Boy, Ric Flair. Rick, how are you, man?
Good, Conrad. How are you? Steve, how are you?
Man, we are good. We are excited to be here. You got them stirred up last week, boy. Everybody's talking about To Be the Man last week. What was the feedback you saw?
Just told the truth. And by the way, just to start it off with, I have seen Jim Ross, and I've seen him with you. I had to think about this afterwards, and I was very cordial to him, and he still hasn't apologized. So that's just who he is. I saw him with Mongo.
Yeah, we did the whole money for Mongo fundraiser summer, and gracious enough to be there and came together for a good cause in Mongo. Well, things kind of came apart here last week on the show. Everybody was talking about what you said about Bischoff and Jim Ross and others, and man, people got pretty excited.
Well, let's go right to Bischoff. Let's just get this stuff that's old news behind. It just is it, and where the jealous was between he and I. He brought up this thing and he named the 4 or 5 people, Goldberg, I can't remember, that were bigger stars and more successful and made more money. And I absolutely agree. I mean, I'll just go so far as to say in the 90s, Ric Flair and the Horsemen were the shits, if that makes them feel better. My whole thing started because he's in my documentary, and what I can't figure out, and maybe after he watches it next Monday, which he will with the world, hopefully, he can explain to me why a guy that meant nothing to the company, according to him, had no value, was replaced by so many different people, which I was, and I have no problem with that. Not paid nearly as well as any. I think I was like the 18th highest paid employee in the company. I've heard that figure. Why he chose me to make an example of, rather than someone like Scott Steiner or the guys that who didn't go to take drug tests, or why guys that didn't show up for house shows, just why pick me? And Scott Steiner's not the only one that didn't take a drug test. The guy just gave the finger to the doctor and walked out the door.
Whoa, you remember somebody flipping the doctor off? I never heard that story.
No, I mean, well, I don't mean literally. I mean, they just said no.
Yeah.
You hadn't heard the stories. Don't worry. That was that was the worst wellness program ever installed in any company. God.
You felt like WCW's testing policy, whatever it was a joke?
Absolutely was a joke. Guys didn't take it.
Right.
I was there. I watched them walk in and out. Why would they take it? You told the story last week about what he said about, what did he say about Hunter?
Well, yeah, clearly that was in the WWE, but as the story goes, and Scott Steiner has told this story, that WWE wanted to drug test him, and he said, yeah, no problem. Just send a limo to my house, make sure Hunter's in it, and we'll go together. And that was the end of that.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. It doesn't make any difference. I don't think he observed the rules there either, but he's not the only one. So, I mean, at WCW.
Well, listen, any final words on Eric Bischoff before we move on and tackle some other topics today?
No, I just said final words were, why would you, what purpose did it serve to make an example out of me?
Right.
And try and break me for taking my son to the AEW Nationals. I mean, for a secondary show called Thunder that nobody went to.
In fairness, if Garrett Bischoff would have been in the finals, Eric Bischoff would have been there. Of course, he would have missed the show.
Yeah, I'm not even throwing that in. I said that to you privately, but why would you make an example of me, a guy that meant nothing to the company at that point in time, according to him?
Right. Well, that's a fair point. If I'm so insignificant, what did it matter?
Exactly.
Point well made.
Yeah, Rick A slapped on the finger, but not starve me for a year, take a year of my career away from me. for going to the AU National with my son.
Yeah.
And now, just my final line will be, Eric, now you make a living. Thank God for my son-in-law, Conrad Thompson.
Oh, my goodness. Will you stop?
That is the God's honest truth, and I don't care whether you say it. I know it for a fact. He'd be bankrupt again if it wasn't for.
Oh, be nice. Hey, let's talk.
I'm being nice. You asked me. I'm not saying anything bad. It's right there. I read his deal. He's been bankrupt. What the fuck? Listen, I've been on the verge of it. I know what it's like to be pushed that hard. I just didn't do it because I just, would have looked myself the next day and said, God damn, what have you done? But he did it. So, and you pull him out of another one. I know what's going on around here. Hey, 73, okay? Been in the biz. Been in the biz.
Who was your
lived in, like wined and dined with kings and queens?
Oh my gosh!
Slept in the alley eating pork and beans. That's me. I've done them both, brother. The Sinesta wasn't the alley, but it was not the penthouse.
It was not
in
Piper Glen.
Where did I live? Piper Glen.
Yeah,
7205, 11,000 square feet, swept by my wife's attorney.
Speaking of attorneys, who was your attorney during your spat with Eric Bischoff? Was that Bill Diehl?
Bill, yeah, Bill just passed.
That's what I wanted to mention. We didn't plug it on the show, or listen to me, but we didn't even discuss it.
He called the attorney in Bill's office on Sunday when it happened, and he called Monday morning he called the Turners, and the guy goes, Eric, the guy goes to Bill, we got 200 attorneys down here to handle guys like you. Bill said, really? You got one right here in Charlotte that's going to fucking own Turner. If I can get Rick to sit down through it all the way through it, and Eric Bischoff won't be able to find a job in North America. You can't, as an executive, you cannot, as an executive vice president of a company, get up and make a public statement like that. It don't work like that. And he said it in front of over 100 people. I was going to have Booker T come on as a guest on the show. Just like the time he made the crack to me about, the people in the room. I mean, and you told me Jericho wrote it in his book. I guess I wasn't aware of that, but
yeah,
only 3 people that ever drew any money, or Savage, Hogan, and Piper. Well, I was sitting right there.
Yeah,
the whole room looked at me.
Yeah.
So,
well, shout out to Bill Diehl and his family. Unfortunately, he passed away earlier this month. Your attorney for all of the Bischoff shenanigans, and I guess maybe a divorce or two along the way, and probably some other cases.
Yeah, just one, but
the big one.
He pulled me out of another couple high spots over the years. The road rage.
Oh my gosh, we got to talk about that story one day. You want to tell that story now? What happened there?
Well, I was coming back from England, and I hadn't drank all the way in the plane. It was Thanksgiving Eve, so Mark Megan's ex picked me up. I was with Tiffany, and we're driving home. I hadn't had a drink, so I was driving at a warp speed. I slept all the way home. I don't think I slept. First time I slept in days. And we were. This car was next to me, and then I tried to pass, and I just bought a brand new Cayenne,
the Porsche SUV, which at the time was the fastest 4-door ever made.
The turbo SUV, which was not one of the hottest cars in the market then. And so the guy wouldn't let me pass him, right? And so finally I went around him, right? And he comes up behind me and rolls down the window and says, gives me the finger and starts screaming at me, and takes a full beer can and throws it on the door of my new car. Boom. I mean, I just went into like, what? I just got off a plane. I'm not doing anything wrong. I mean, and I thought, oh my God. So as it happens, and you've driven into Charlotte before, as it happens, it goes from 8 lanes to 6 to 4 to 2 at the bottleneck as you start to go into the city. I said, I never lost sight of the guy. And Tiffany kept saying, I know what you're going to do. I said, I'm not going to do anything. I just kept it in my rearview mirror, right? And when we got to 2 in the topic, the bottom jammed the traffic. I got out of the car, man, and I walked over to him. He was 2 lanes over, and trucks are honking their horns and when you woo and everybody. He opened the door and had to get a tire tool in his hands. I just had to. I don't know what I did with it, but I didn't hit him with it. But I may have just pushed him or something. But about a week later, I got a call from the police department. They said, Rick, there's a warrant for your arrest. You want to just come on in and we can work this out? We'll walk you through it. I said, yeah. But it made major news across the country. And then Vince, of course, made that skit with Edge.
Yep.
With Edge, which was hilarious. That really got over with the DA, too, by the way. So making fun of it, huh? No, sir, not me. I have no control over creative at Stanford. It's probably Pritchard. Damn that, Bruce. Well, yeah, there it is right there.
I think there's a part of the story maybe you missed. I've heard a version of the story where the driver's keys were involved. Can you tell us what happened there?
Oh yeah, I threw them across the highway. I'm sorry. I threw them for 3 lanes across the highway. They were lost. Yeah.
We just forgot that part.
Yeah, well, that wasn't. I don't think that was. Yeah, that probably caused a problem too because his car wouldn't move for a while. Oh, everybody called me on that. I mean, everybody from Hunter to Shawn Michaels, they thought it was the greatest thing that ever happened.
So there, let that be a lesson to you young wrestlers out there. If you're looking to make some headlines, beat up a guy on the interstate and throw his keys in the woods. And
road rage. Yeah. Hey, yesterday I got a call from Tucker Carlson's girl, right?
Yeah.
And you ever heard this thing about Jim Duggan over the weekend, right?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, the Jim's on Tucker tonight.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's a great story. Oh, my God. 3 guys were chasing this guy, and he broke down Jim's door trying to get away from 3 guys. It was the truth.
And Jim pulls a gun on the guy, holds him till the cops get there.
No, he had what's her name stand on him, and then Jim went to the back door with his, he was armed, let's put it like that. And Duggan, as you probably know, and afraid of nobody. So, but it's amazing how stuff like that just catching everybody's attention. Tucker's girl called me right away because I've been unable to do the show just travel wise because it's filmed in Rhode Island. So, I'm gonna probably do it later on. I just got to make sure my taxes are paid. Because like with the Democrats running the IRS, got to make sure that everything's going good.
My goodness, listen to you. Hey, let's make sure that Ric Flair is paying the IRS. Go to RicFlairShop.com right now. Pick up a hat, a hoodie, a t-shirt, a coffee mug, a poster. RicFlairShop.com, where you can get all your Ric Flair swag. That's the place to be. Yeah. RicFlairShop.com.
Yeah, and please, dear IRS, we're just having a moment of fun here. I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm paying. I'm current.
My goodness.
I don't even want to make a joke about it.
Somebody else.
It's not funny. It ain't funny.
Well, something that was funny, I didn't see it coming. This past weekend, I can't believe it. The Dallas Cowboys, who a lot of people thought were going to be a major contender and perhaps
love it
into the playoffs and make a deep run, they lost to the Jacksonville Jaguars in overtime. And almost nobody called that. But boy, if there's one person who enjoys trolling the Cowboys fans better than anybody else, it's our old pal, Stephen A. Smith. He was on First Take, and he made quite an impression on Monday. Let's take a look and see what old Stephen A. had to say on First Take.
I have a question about the Cowboys.
Thank you. No need for the question. Got a few things to say here. Number 1, Swagoo, Keyshawn, it's only just begun. I'll deal with you guys in a few days. But to my guy, Michael Irvin, I got to tell you, it's so hard for me to sit here listening to a guy yelling my name when last year I spent more money on spilt liquor in bars from one side of the world to the next than you made. You talking to the Rolex wearing, diamond ring wearing, kiss stealing, whoa, wheeling dealing, limousine riding, jet flying, son of a gun, and I'm having a hard time trying to hold these alligators down. Whoa, I told you what was gonna happen to the Cowboys. I told you it was coming. It's inevitable. This is the beginning of the end. And all I gotta say is I'm looking forward to First Take today. Whoa!
You heard it first.
My goodness, what a moment. You know, listen, we want to act like you were the 18th most important person in WCW. I don't see anybody else doing any of that on TV in 2020.
I know, but that was then, now is now. At least I made an impression on some other people.
Well, that was an awesome first Monday episode to get our week started. And then on Tuesday, you actually appear on First Take. And now here you are this week, man. I don't care what anybody says. Ric Flair is a pop culture icon. I mean, would you have ever imagined? It feels like to me, you're a bigger star in pop culture in the eyes of the mainstream media now than even when you were wrestling. Would you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. It's just, I mean, whether it's YouTube or the WWE Network or whatever, just in my case, and especially in my case, because I'm so much older. I mean, I just saw where Franco Harris died. I'm a year older than Franco Harris. My God. You know, that immaculate reception that they were going to celebrate Friday with the Steelers, right? And to be in this position and to have a documentary made about me, and then have guys like Stephen A., who I've known, you know, for years. Long before he was on First Take, he had other radio shows that I used to listen to. He's so entertaining. And being a former athlete, I respect him more because he's been an athlete. He knows what it's like to pay the price to be an athlete. And he's just entertaining. He's got unbelievable energy, and he says exactly what he thinks. He's Charles Barkley. I mean, I ranked the two, number one and number two, in overall sports. I guess my favorite football announcer is Tony Romo. But I mean, there's some guys that just stand out. And those three stand out a lot in my mind. There are other people, but I mean, Keith Jackson and guys like that, and who's the real famous guy that just passed away, Madden. Guys like that are gone. So yeah, I'm thrilled to even be thought of in that light. And like I said to him in the documentary, we all blow our own horn to some extent. You know, on these podcasts, it's just fun to do it. This is a podcast, ESPN. This isn't one of those Michael Baticchio where you pay a guy $2,500 to say something shitty about another wrestler, hoping that wrestler will come and you can create controversy and sell the video, whatever they call it, shoots. What do they call them again?
Shoot interviews, yeah.
Yeah. And that was my shoot interview, but it was on ESPN.
Yeah.
It wasn't, for $2,500. I didn't get paid for it, but it was on national TV, and we're talking about today, like on a real podcast, and you're like a real millionaire. I'm not, but you are.
You're on a roll today, man.
No, I know. I'm just saying the truth. You're like a real millionaire. I'm not, but this is not a shoot interview. It's a podcast that is actually factual because I've lived through it all and seen it all.
Well, we're glad,
and I don't have a reason. I don't have any agenda, but to tell you exactly what I think.
Yeah, and I love that.
And leaving it without Eric. You watch it, and then you tell me, why would he pick me of anybody else in the world to sue and try and break my family, which, whether you like to admit it or not, it affected Megan too. She was my family.
No, yeah. Well, I mean, we've actually talked about that. I mean,
and she was in college. I wasn't getting paid.
She had major reservations about me doing a podcast with him, and we've all talked about that together, like Eric and Lori and me and Megan. And anyway, let's talk about somebody else.
Well, it's Christmas time. I'm just asking. I mean, I'll be curious to hear what people think. Why someone that was so insignificant, why not just fire me?
Well, we're going to see that documentary for ourselves. I know you've seen a screener, but it comes out this coming Monday, Becoming Ric Flair. Woo, I'll get it out. The brand new great documentary from Peacock. It airs this Monday, the day after Christmas, December 26th. Check it out on Peacock. Everybody is going to be talking about it. I'm sure of it. Let's talk about something that we can share. That's good news. Yep. You said you've lived and seen it all.
Hey, everything's good news.
Barry Windham is out of ICU. He's on the mend. We're pulling for Barry. His GoFundMe is still live. If you have an opportunity, go to GoFundMe.com, type in Barry Windham, and you'll see it right there where you can make a donation. But man, Barry Windham pulling the nose up on this thing.
Yeah.
I'm tickled to hear that he's no longer in ICU and on the mend.
He's back in Gainesville, right?
I believe I think he's home now.
In Gainesville, Florida.
I'm not sure where home is. I know it is somewhere in Florida. I could look and see where I've booked his travel from before, but I don't off the top of my head.
Okay. Yeah. What a great guy. I mean, just one of the most incredible talents of all time.
We probably also want to send some positive vibes out right now for a friend of the show, Konnan. I understand he's recently started dialysis and maybe is in need of a kidney transplant.
Who?
Konnan, the famous luchador from Mexico. Yeah. Great guy, friend of the show, one of the smartest minds in wrestling, a real power broker, almost like a consigliere for a lot of the lucha talent that try to make a splash here in America. Apparently he's going through some tough health challenges. So let's keep him in mind this holiday season too.
Thanks for bringing that up. I didn't realize that. I actually like Konnan. I didn't know him that well, but I got to spend some quality time with him when I went to Mexico with Manny and the Queen, and he is a very nice guy. So I'll be thinking about him too. And Mongo, Jesus, yeah. We don't have any guys like you and me and Steve. We haven't got a problem in the world when you start thinking about stuff like that.
No doubt.
Mongo, Jesus. So anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to bring anybody down.
Oh no, listen, let's talk about some other good news. Friend of the show, Mike Mansury, is back in the wrestling business. He of course had a long run with the WWE, became a good friend of yours and everybody who worked behind the scenes in WWE. And then he moved to the other end of the world to work in mixed martial arts, but man, he's with AEW now. How about that? Mike Mansury doing his thing again.
I didn't know that.
How cool is that, dude?
That's a big hire for Tony.
Huge hire. And super proud to get to know Mike. You and I spent some time with him and tore it down in a bar with Corey Graves once, and just a hell of a nice guy. And I'm glad that
he's a wine drinking son of a bitch, man. Pinot Noir Mike. Yeah, I'm glad to hear that. That's a huge hire for Tony.
Very big hire. They've been trying to figure it out. I think, for a while. I know that Keith Mitchell retired, and I know that Kevin Sullivan's doing his thing, but man, that's a big operation. They're cranking
what's Kevin doing?
Not the devil. Not the devil.
Okay, I'm sorry.
The other Kevin Sullivan. I get them confused too. I even have them programmed in my phone, and I put a little picture.
Well, here's what happened with Mike. Mike was going to replace Kevin Dunn, but here's the people. Things don't understand. People don't understand that Kevin Dunn ain't going anywhere.
No,
he's got the disease as bad as I've had it. I mean, I just spoke with him yesterday. He's why would he walk away from something he enjoys? That's what saddened me about Vince. Not that Hunter and Stephanie were taking over. It's just, that Vince, when you do something like that for so long, like myself, it's hard to walk away from. So, but Mike is great. I'm happy for him. And that's a big deal for Tony. Congratulations. Tony's riding a high right now because he's, pretty heavily involved with the Jaguars too. So he's having a good time.
The best time. The good news keeps on coming for Tony Khan, because AEW Rampage just drew their best ratings since October. it's sort of been their thunder, their B show, I guess you would call it. It is on Friday, which I think everybody knows is maybe not the most ideal day. But still, ratings are on the rise there. Do you think a taped show can be successful in 2022? It feels like an uphill battle at times, I'm sure.
I think on Friday night, coming on at 10 o'clock is tough.
Mm-hmm.
And it would be equally as tough for the WWE to pull it off. They've got their time slot locked in, and people. I mean, it's like tonight. I know I'm going to go watch AEW. I'm going to go over there at 5 o'clock, drink my Mick Ultra till 7. Then I'll drink vodka, tonic, cranberry, lime until 8, and then I'll watch the first hour and a half, depending on how good the show is, with red wine. Then I'll go home and go to bed. But I look forward to it. I mean, Monday was Raw and Monday Night Football, and Raw got a pretty good rating this week against
Monday Night Football.
Monday Night Football. They came up big time, so good for them. It's a great time to be watching sports entertainment. God, I'm just sad, like you are, that each time they say there's 3 weeks left, and just 3 weeks less of what guys like you and me live for.
Football, man, it's awesome.
Yeah, football, and a lot of the bowl games. Alabama's. Let me say, were they playing again?
Michigan State. No, Kansas State.
Oh, you guys are in a bowl game?
Yeah, we're playing next Friday at 11 o'clock in the morning.
Oh man, I won't miss that. This coming Friday or New Year's Eve?
New Year's Eve, right before the important games. The important games are that evening. Alabama will be in the Bush Leagues. We'll be playing at 11 o'clock in the morning.
No, what bowl is that?
It's the Sugar Bowl in New Orleans. Now, 11 o'clock is Central Time. I guess it's noon Eastern.
So if you chartered a private plane, I mean, did you get a suite?
Could not care less. I'll be watching from the basement. Yeah.
Hey, they did watching from the Conradison or the Conradison 2.
The Conradison 2 will be finished in January. And hey, it sounds like we're gonna have a beach house. Maybe you'll actually show up every now and again. Megan will be glad of that. But
you'll have all 3.
Well, that's true. That's true.
How do you do time?
Well, listen. I know you've told us the story before here on the show. As Darius Rucker met your lovely assistant Kelly once, he said, "When I die, I want to come back as you." Well, when I die, I want to come back as Megan. She's living the life I could only dream of.
Yeah. Well, hey, here's the deal. You built a house for Morgan. You built a house for Megan. You built a house for
Kansas has one. Everybody.
Kansas and Megan.
Yeah, everybody's all set.
They all 3 have homes.
I need one more for me and you, and we'll call it the frat house.
Yeah. No, I mean they'll have their own place. They don't have to argue when you're gone.
Well, yeah, there you go.
Hey, I'm sure you've got them all nice cars, so.
It's true.
If Papa lives long enough, Papa can just go visit all 3 of them.
So, Rick, let's talk about the big news from the last week. It came out, Vince McMahon was in the news again. There are some more allegations. I'm sure the chips will fall where they may on all that. But a report from the Wall Street Journal says McMahon has, quote, told people he intends to make a comeback at WWE. And he has, quote, said that he received bad advice from people close to him to step down, and that he now believes the allegations and investigations would have blown over had he stayed. And if you take a look at the WWE stock this year, where seemingly everything else went down, WWE stock did not. It's up like 50% this year, something incredible. Do you think Vince McMahon will actually return to WWE, or is that it? Is it the Hunter and Stephanie era from here on out?
I don't know the answer to that. I wish he would come back in some capacity. I mean, obviously Hunter and Stephanie are doing a great job.
Sure.
And trust me, it's a big job. You know what I mean? At least they're dividing the time. I know I see people periodically, and people are happy working for Hunter, and here's the problem. Like, it's like in any business, you're never going to like everybody you work for.
Right.
So I'm sure there are some people like working for Hunter. Some people like working better for Vince. You know, I can't give you an honest answer. I just want him to be happy.
Right.
Because I won't budge on a statement that he built it.
Of course.
He withstood it. He went through all the personal aggravation. I mean, the fights, the bad stuff, everything that anybody that tries to rise to success in business went through it all by himself. I'm sure with the support of his family, but them probably never at such a young age, surely understanding, you know, what it was like for like Geraldo to break into their home and shit like that when all that was going down. You know about that, right?
No.
You didn't know Geraldo broke into their home?
No. What are you talking about?
That investigative promoter, that reporter, remember him?
I know who Geraldo is. Geraldo broke into Vince's house?
Yeah, back when that steroid trial was going on.
No, I had no knowledge of this. This is what?
Yeah, I'm absolutely telling you the truth. Or I don't say he broke into physically. He had people do it.
Oh my God. No, I did not know that.
Well, make sure we get this right. But I've been told that by some very close people to the situation. Yeah.
Listen, I've heard another story about someone breaking into someone's house in wrestling that we probably shouldn't tell on the air, but I had no idea there was a Vince McMahon, Geraldo.
Well, tell me, what story are you talking about?
I'll tell you off air. It's a friend of ours, but I actually learned it at your ceremony with Wendy years ago. And I thought, what? I mean, this is relatively recent, but goodness gracious.
When all that when I was wrestling Savage, they were right in the middle of that steroid trial and all that crap.
Right.
And all that stuff. And it was huge. That was like big news back then. There wasn't the social media available that there is now, but that was huge. And he was an investigative reporter.
Oh no, I know. I mean, I remember Geraldo and the whole Al Capone's vault, and I mean, I remember all the Geraldo.
Yeah, he was very active and involved in the. Let's get our facts before this airs. I don't need lawsuits from Geraldo, but no, I've been told that by very, people that were right there.
Well, I'll tell you something that everybody was talking about this past week, and that's the idea that John Cena returned to WWE programming. John Cena, of course, goes together with WWE like peanut butter and jelly, man. I mean, this is one of the pillars of the entire company, especially for the last 20 years. And I think a lot of people are, were maybe shocked to see he's coming back now. I think everybody expects, well, around WrestleMania season, maybe we'll see The Rock, or we'll see Stone Cold, or we'll see John Cena. Anytime John Cena's around, it's a value add for the WWE. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely. Yeah. John's a wonderful guy. I'm going to go see him the 27th here. And, I know he's going to be at SmackDown on the 27th. I'm going to go see him.
That's
I promised Chad and some people that are bringing family members that they want to meet Roman and John, and you couldn't ask for two nicer guys. So I'll make somebody happy.
I absolutely will.
I just can't wait for the Queen to come back. Damn it.
Yeah, I've been following on social media. It looks like her and Andrade are having quite the time over in Italy right now.
Oh man, unbelievable. She said the greatest trip she's ever been on in her life.
That's awesome. I'm glad they're getting that time.
I mean, and she's found interest in stuff that I never would imagine. Like, she's taking pictures of the Roman Colosseum and Michelangelo, and I mean, just amazing. And it's just so she's become a cultural fanatic. It's phenomenal.
It is super cool to see, and especially since he's on the shelf, and maybe everybody knows, but Andrade recently had a pec repaired. He tore it wrestling for AEW, had that surgery done, similar surgery to what Cody Rhodes did. That is a major surgery. We're pulling for him.
It is, and the healing process is very delicate. Very delicate. You got to be very careful with it. So he's still in the sling.
Looking forward to both of them returning to TV sooner rather than later. Somebody else who's going to be returning to TV soon enough, Sasha Banks. It looks like she's trademarked her real name. And as the story goes, she's going to be at the big New Japan show, their version of WrestleMania, coming up in early January. So we're just a couple of weeks away. Wrestle Kingdom 17 from the Tokyo Dome. And Ricky may not even realize this, but historically there haven't been a bunch of female wrestlers on the New Japan program, but to have a star like Sasha Banks, well, it's an opportunity that nobody wants to miss up on. What do you expect Sasha to do in New Japan?
Steal the show.
Yeah.
For the women's division. Absolutely. I'm sure her skills are just every bit as sharp as they ever have been. You know, I told you, I feel like she and the Queen are, I mean, you can list a number of people, and obviously Lita and Trish and but the two that have stood out the most the last 10 years or 8 years, whatever it is, have been Sasha and the Queen, far and away.
It does feel like no matter who your favorite is on the female side of the WWE program, they've had some of their best matches against Sasha Banks. I mean, she is just a phenomenal performer. I think everybody agrees on that.
Yep.
And
a very nice person.
Yes. And I think a lot of people were probably surprised when she walked away from the company earlier this year. But I, for one, was even more surprised that wasn't seemingly undone. We saw Hunter put Humpty Dumpty back together again, so to speak, with a lot of talent that were adios, like Killer Cross or Hit Row or Regal or Road Dogg or whatever. And I just kind of assumed, well, Sasha will be back too. Instead, she's going to try her hand in New Japan. Do you think, I mean, would you have called that? And do you think that's a necessary step? Like, is it important to, see if the grass is really greener and sort of, because part of me says, man, if she doesn't go do the New Japan thing now, when will she have the time to do that? If she goes and does it now, she can always come back to WWE, but I just didn't see it. I thought for sure she'd.
Yeah, she's young enough to always come back. And I think it's, man, if she can get paid, and I can only imagine what they're paying her. I mean, I'm sure it's major bucks. If she can do that, and she'll get as much ink and notoriety as she gets over here, which she will be, if what you're saying is correct about the importance and the relevance of that show, then why not? Then she just travels the world. I would just talk to her once in a while, and she's just having a good time. So, I mean, she doesn't seem stressed out by it. I'm happy for her. I mean, I told you, Ashley is me and only better, and she's Ricky Steamboat.
I'll tell you the thing that is a real head scratcher to me. First of all, kudos to Wrestle Kingdom and all of New Japan for being able to pull that off. But I believe this will be the first time Wrestle Kingdom hasn't been on Fight in a long, long time. I mean, back when they first did the English version, with JR doing commentary, which may have been, I don't know, almost 10 years ago, they've always been on Fight. This one will not be. That feels like a missed opportunity for New Japan and Fight. I don't know. Maybe it's a business decision from New Japan. I know they have their own streaming service, New Japan World. Maybe that's the thinking, is let's drive traffic there. But as someone who's actually been to a Wrestle Kingdom and certainly watched many of them from home, I always watched it on Fight, and now it's not there. I wonder how many fans are going to, well, I guess it's not happening this year. Maybe it's not on pay-per-view this year. If you've got a star like Sasha Banks, to me, you would think, man, we got to get that on Fight.
So it's not on Fight. Is Fight pay-per-view traditionally?
Yes, but through an app. So it's not just, it's not like DirecTV and Dish Network. Now they can do that. I mean, we did that for your show, and Fight was sort of the liaison to do it, but more often
will they sell out at the Tokyo Dome?
I don't know what the ticket sales are for this one, but yes, historically they've sold it out. I mean, to the point where they even started doing 2-night events, much like WrestleMania. And that didn't sell as well, but years ago it sold crazy. And this year, man, there's some really big matches on that card. Let's actually, maybe Steve can pull that up for us, because Wrestle Kingdom 17 is like the Japanese WrestleMania, if you will. And I think the match that everybody's talking about is Jay White and Okada, or Will Ospreay and Kenny Omega. But we're also going to see Carl Anderson versus Tama Tonga. Muda is going to be on the show, teaming with Tanahashi. And they're going to be taking on some old friends of Manny's. or I'm sorry, Andrade's. FTR will be there representing AEW as well, and Zack Sabre Jr. is on the show. So there's a lot of talent. It's a loaded show, and yeah, we got Sasha Banks right in the middle of it, man.
Yeah. And who is Sasha wrestling?
I don't think they've actually made an announcement of what she's doing yet, just that she will be there.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I'm glad to see the Americans have a heavy presence, because for me personally, it makes it better. The Japanese kids are very talented, boy. I mean, and you know, in the old days, they used to be really tough. I'm assuming most of them are now too. So,
oh yeah,
there's easier ways to make a living in wrestling in Japan. And certainly, there was in the '80s, but I'm sure it's calmed down a little bit now. But it used to be very competitive. Guys like Hanson and Brody, man, they went over there and it was they didn't budge. Nobody sold anything for anybody. That wasn't really my cup of tea. As a matter of fact, you know, the story, probably the greatest ever of all time, was a guy called me and said, they want you in Tokyo, and they want to switch the belt. We told them no, so we're sending Harley with you.
I love that.
So Harley had to stand out there with the ring for an hour. He kept looking at me and said, "This is bullshit. Can't you defend yourself against Saruda?" I said, "No, I can't." We had 15 minutes, 20 more suplexes. I'll be ready to go have a beer.
I love it.
I'll take you to the bathhouse, Harley. Calm down.
My goodness. Well, shout out to your man Muda. This will be his
Can you imagine if I ever got you over there? I'm telling you, you'd love it.
You know, my wife would not let me go. I'm not allowed to go. Huh? I'm not allowed to go anywhere with you. You know that.
Oh no.
She doesn't have to say it, but I know it's an unofficial ban.
I think you and I need to run in Tokyo. Shinjuku. That's the area we love. Forget about Roppongi. We want the red carpet.
They're going to be rolling out the red carpet for Muto. This will be his last New Japan match. Let's talk about those two sort of headline matches. Okada is going to be challenging Jay White for the New Japan World Championship. Is Jay White on your radar? Have you seen much of his stuff?
I have not. How old is Okada now?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think he's mid-30s. Let me take a look here.
Yeah, he's considered the top star, right?
Yeah, he's 35.
Yeah, and Omega would be considered our top star, right?
Omega will be challenging Will Ospreay for the United States Championship. This is Omega's return to New Japan, and obviously that's a home run for them. I mean, to have Omega and Okada in consecutive matches on top, it should be a big show. But the other guy I wanted to ask about, the guy that maybe a lot of people consider to be one of, if not the best wrestler in the world, Will Ospreay. He's just 29 years old. Is he on your radar yet?
I haven't seen him.
I can't wait for you to see.
What show is he on?
New Japan. I mean, he's
not an AEW or anything.
He's been on there a handful of times. He used to do some 6-man tags with Aussie Open.
Yeah, I just haven't seen him, and I feel bad now because I wish I could comment, but I have not seen him.
Well, somebody I know you have seen, MJF. He popped up recently. It was a big opportunity for them because it feels like Dana White once upon a time used to highlight whenever WWE guys would show up, whether it was The Rock or Stone Cold or The Undertaker. Well, they showed MJF on the pay-per-view with his AEW title. And that's a big crossover opportunity that AEW has not normally been afforded. Do you think MJF can be one of those main crossover mainstream stars? Do you think he could have that appeal someday?
Yeah, I mean, if anybody does right now, any of the young guys, he gets a lot of people's attention. He gets mine. I love watching him.
Yeah.
I mean, he's to me, he reminds me a little bit of the Miz in that he takes it so serious.
Yes.
I mean, the Miz, my respect for the Miz is unlimited just because of the commitment of time and his work ethic. And I mean, the Miz just, when whatever assignment they give him, he pulls off, and he does a good job of it. And I mean, even though he never wins, But I mean, the stuff with Logan Paul, I mean, everybody, any assignment they give them he makes it good.
Right.
Yeah, and there's a guy that started out. We discussed it before. Getting bullied around by people that had no right doing it. So, and he made it, and look at him all. Look how successful he is. So, hats off to him, and think the world of him and his family.
Rick, let's talk about Bronson Reed. I don't know if you saw, but Hunter has brought back yet another fellow. He came in and splashed Dexter Lumis over the weekend and helped The Miz, who you were just raving about, pull something off. Bronson Reed was a guy that a lot of people thought was going to have a bright future, and especially the way he had been featured in NXT. And then, poof, he was gone. Once again, Hunter has brought him back. What do you think about Bronson Reed?
Why was he gone?
Man, who knows? When the whole...
Yeah, I never understood that.
I don't think anybody did, but he's back in WWE now. What do you expect?
Well, he does some amazing stuff for a guy his size.
Yes.
So, I mean, I haven't heard him talk that much, but anytime you're that agile and that big, and you can expect anything. And like I said, I think that with the number of guys that are getting hurt, and it doesn't seem to change, there's always going to be injuries. It's a very physical sport, as we talk about. But I think Hunter's building a depth chart, and like I said, I would assume he's getting these guys back at a more reasonable rate.
Okay.
So, because a lot of people get paid a lot of money that don't deserve it. And, in this case, I hope he's making as much as he possibly can. But if he's an addition, and I think he's good. I haven't seen a lot of them, but I think he's good. Let me see him in a couple single matches, and I'll be able to give you a better opinion.
Well, somebody who's got a whole new rate that is making headlines everywhere, and we didn't talk about it last week because when we recorded, it hadn't happened yet. But last week, Mandy Rose dropped her title on NXT, and it came out that she was released because she chose not to take down her fan site, which maybe had some risque content that wasn't in line with the WWE's vision. And as the story goes, her first 7 days outside of the company, she made over $500,000 on that fan site. My goodness. She's the highest paid performer in the wrestling space the last 7 days. That's a real sentence. Are you surprised that Mandy Rose is no longer with the company? Do you think she will even tinker with wrestling again? Or, man, if you were her, would you just keep making that money?
Well, I haven't had a chance to ask anybody this, because I haven't obviously asked Megan. She probably doesn't watch it. What is she doing on this thing that they didn't like?
Nudity.
Complete nudity.
Well, I don't know about complete nudity. I haven't subscribed. But yes, she's shown her bare breasts and she's shown her bare bottom. And I think that, there were some things in there that maybe shouldn't have been, according to WWE's morality clause in their contracts and what have you. And as the story goes, Matt Bloom, the former A-Train, who's sort of a bigwig, mover and shaker down at NXT, gave the heads up to Shawn Michaels, who I guess then told corporate, and they had a conversation, and Mandy Rose made a different decision. And a lot of folks are saying, hey, good for her, man. $500,000 in a week. Who needs wrestling?
Well, I don't know what kind of money she was making with the company. I personally, I only know Mandy a little bit. I really like her.
Yes.
And I thought her work had gotten really a lot better at NXT because she got more opportunity.
Yes.
And I expect her to be back up on the main roster. So only she can make that decision. She married is she still dating that football player or married to him?
I think they're engaged. I'm not sure that they're married.
He's a nice kid too, but only they can make that decision. If I was her, I'd rather be on TV.
Right.
Because that stuff gets old, and then sometimes you can't come back from that kind of stuff. The more of it you do. So,
well,
I'm not giving anybody advice on how to run their life, but
no, of course not.
I myself would rather be on TV, and if she was, improving like she had been, and God, she looks like $1 million, and she can get a great paycheck, I'd rather be wrestling. But I mean, that would certainly be my choice for my daughter or my wife or whatever.
Let me ask you this. Once upon a time, the WWE used to arrange the promotion and then help promote it themselves to have their quote unquote divas appear in Playboy, whether
Yes.
it was Sable or Tori Wilson or Chyna or Maria Kanellis or on and Ashley Mazzaro, on and on. Lots of WWE divas were on the cover of Playboy and then cross promoted all throughout WWE programming. And I realize that this is a more PG era, but it feels as if, hey, that I could see how an outsider would say, so it's okay if WWE's getting a payday. It's not okay if only I do. I could see where there's an argument there. What say you?
Well, I can't remember. I'm trying to figure out when did WWE go public?
2000. So, I mean, they did all this Playboy stuff. A lot of this Playboy stuff happened after.
Okay, after. Okay, so that wasn't the reason why. I don't know. I mean, I know they went very PG for a while, not even PG-13. I think that I think the strategy is that they're going to do what their advertisers, which obviously generate the revenue that makes them exist, aside from the tremendous value of their production. I think they dictate the market. So if someone was paying them a lot of money, didn't like it, one person can probably change that whole thought process around. I'm sure that Sean didn't like having to fire. I mean, that's not the kind of guy. I'm sure Sean didn't like walk up and say, "Hey, Mandy, you're out of here."
Right.
That had to be a hard job for him to do. But Sean's got a job to do too. So everybody answers to somebody.
That's
except
right.
You.
Well, whatever that means. I think the last time a WWE person appeared in Playboy was Maria, and I think that was 2008. So it does feel as if, the company went more PG in recent years, but I don't know, man. And I hear you when you said I would rather be on TV, but I do know that, for instance, if she wanted to still work in wrestling, somebody would put her to work right away. It might not fit within the confines of WWE. And I don't know what Tony's stance is.
But here's my. I've got to be very careful. I say this: if you've been at the height, so like Sasha doesn't have to prove anything to anybody, right? She can do what she wants to. She's been the top star or a top star, arguably one of the 2 or 3 best ever, right? So Sasha has nothing left to prove. If it's in your mind that you want to be a top star in the WWE, which is the Mecca right now as we stand, we love AEW, but we're talking about, 2 different situations, entirely different. One's an empire, one's a promotion. So if your goal is to be the very best at what you do with the biggest, most powerful company, not the XFL, CFL, NFL, not Ring of Honor, not AEW, WWE, then I would choose WWE over that short span of whatever you're going to do. Because, you can go somewhere else, but if your goal was to be on the top tier, which is the WWE, then that goal is going to disappear. I'd rather her, because she's young enough. I don't think she's even what is she, 30 years old?
Yeah, let me look at that. As we're looking at that,
I would have gone as far as I could with WWE. Then she could do that later on.
32 years old, and the rumor and innuendo is that Mattel, who make the action figures for WWE, maybe they had a problem. I mean, I could see how marketing.
Yeah, well, that's a big company.
I get that.
Yeah, but do you see what I'm saying?
Oh, there you see. There's the subscription, MandyRoseSacks.com. And she's got her own little fan site here and making some money. Good for her, man. Here's what I know. Yeah. I know that if I approached Ric Flair and say, I don't know, early 1998, and I said, Rick, you can make $500,000 a week just showing off Space Mountain. Shit, you'd been doing it for free for years. You'd have said, sign me up.
Wow. That is assuming a lot.
Well, I'm just saying, damn, Eric Bischoff. Eric Bischoff, who? I can make money over here. I mean, really, when you look at it from Mandy Rose standpoint, if you had the grueling grind of taking bumps and travel and all this that existed before she was with NXT and just a traditional main roster superstar, or you can just sit at home and make $500,000 a week, that's pretty hard to beat. I could see why that would lure someone away.
Yeah, but can't tell you something, sitting home isn't all that's cracked up to be.
Oh yeah, you got a rough life.
I can't stand sitting home. I love working.
Oh, I know that.
And I don't know that I would, if I've said, I don't know what she wanted to do or what her aspirations truly were. But if they were to be on top at WWE, I would say chase that goal. This might be on my advice. Pursue that goal, because you'll know shortly whether you're ever going to get there.
Right.
If they bring you back up and they give you a push and you don't make it this time, then go do what you want to do.
Right.
But if they were going to bring her back up, because she has improved, in my opinion, a lot, and she obviously looks great, that would be my choice. But I'm not thinking for her. I don't manage her. And she and her husband have a decision to make, or her boyfriend. They're both great people. So, and either way, it looks like they can make a lot of money.
Either way, they're going to be fine. And to your point, she was the NXT Women's Champion for more than a year.
Yeah.
So she certainly accomplished a lot.
And got a lot of PR. I mean, you heard her name all the time.
Yes.
Yeah. So if she was, really getting over with the public, I don't know. I guess I don't know how many followers she has on social media, but she must have a large contingency of male followers now with this new gig she's got going on.
I'm sure that's, that her social media was the printing press.
Thank God I have no technical skills.
Hey, let me ask something on the air. As soon as we got together today, before we clicked record, you said, hey, don't forget to ask me about Shane Douglas. And I have to admit, I don't really know what this is about. I haven't seen it. I think a lot of Shane. He's a nice guy, and I enjoyed his work in ECW, but I know you two have had your issues over the years.
I swear I've never had an issue with him. I can't even believe I'm acknowledging it, but because you're forced to look at your social media sometimes. He's got that 30-year itch, man. He just can't stop. He just can't get over me. And he did something where he said, oh God, he wished me the best, which was the nicest thing he's ever said about me.
I just looked it up on social, and it says Shane Douglas hopes Ric Flair can find whatever peace he's searching for. That's the phrase.
Yeah. Well, I have found it, Shane. And once again, you've told another story. Shame on you, because why would I try to fly out of town when I never fly out at night? Nobody took me to the airport. I didn't stop in 10 bars. Yes, I still drink. It's my business, not yours. And you're right about one thing. I got paid a shitload of money. You didn't. And don't worry about me finding me. Find, what's his real name?
Troy Martin.
I wish that Shane Douglas could find Troy Martin, whoever that is, and that Troy Martin could find Shane Douglas, whoever they are. And as an FYI, he's another guy that Bischoff brought in for me to put over. See, I just can't get rid of Bischoff. 30 years later, Shane, get over it. Look in the mirror. You didn't get along with the clique. You were a star in ECW. Wow. Hall of Fame career. Oh my God, they're making documentaries all about you every time. Let me see. No. Can you help me out, Conrad?
Well, I mean, there's been ECW documentaries.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, listen, if we're going to compare your resume to almost anyone else in wrestling, I'm not even comparing.
I mean, what is the deal about why can't he just forget about me.
Right.
He walked up to me and goes, "Hey, I'm sorry." I mean, to face, he's the nicest guy in the world to me. But he just loves to talk. I don't even know. The joke with me used to be about him looking at because someone told me he worked at Target. So I did the old Wikipedia thing. He did work at Target. So, and you know, I hope a lot of the fans that have come to see me over the years work at Target, shop at Target. I shop at Target. But you certainly don't have a resume that can ever comment on me or my career. Please get over it.
Yeah, well, I mean, let's not dunk on the guy for having a real life and a real job. I mean, that's not a bad.
I'm not. I'm not. He's dumping on me. Have you ever heard him bring up his name to you?
No, we've never. No.
Never. Have I ever brought up his name?
No. I mean, that's why I brought it up today, because you're like, oh, don't forget.
Does he bring up mine? Has he brought up my name over the years 1,000 times?
Yes.
Has he ditched me 1,000 times?
Yes.
Okay. I'm not ditching him now. I'm just saying the same thing Eric said to me. Get over it. I don't know what. I didn't do anything different to you than I did to Johnny Ace. And according to Johnny Ace, I started his career, gave him his first pair of boots. Hell, I probably got Johnny Ace laid for the first time. Who knows?
Oh, okay.
Before he was married.
I hope that one day, sincerely, I mean, I like Shane. Shane's always been cool to me, and
he's cool to me too when I see him in person. But every time I turn around, he's talking about me and telling a story. I don't fly out at night, Shane.
Right.
I went to the hotel bar. I like to watch sports. I didn't stop at 10 bars along the way and keep your nephew.
Okay, all right.
And if I did, I'm sure I paid him a lot of money.
I found the quote. Not long after that, there was a big-time wrestling show out of Boston down near Pittsburgh. My nephew had driven me down, so Flair was there, got paid a ton of money. He went out in the very first segment and did a 3-minute promo. He needed my nephew to drive him back to the airport. So my nephew left. This is at the top of the show, and I'm on late in the show. Like an hour after the show's over, my nephew still hasn't come back, and we're like an hour from the airport. He ended up finally coming back an hour and a half, 2 hours after the show had ended, and he apologized. He said, "We weren't a mile down the road, and Rick made me pull into a bar." He said he stopped at every bar going to the airport. I'm like, well, that obviously means he's drinking again, right? That's like one of those things. If you've survived this medically induced coma, straighten up. My take now is, for whatever it's worth, and I'm not trying to play psychoanalyst, I don't think Ric Flair, first of all, Richard Flair no longer exists. He's allowed Ric Flair to take over that body, and there's a real danger of that because that is truly a mental illness. We are playing a role. I'm very keenly aware of the differences of Shane Douglas and Troy Martin, and I hope they're very different people. So, yeah.
Now I have a mental issue too.
Well, you kind of do. I mean, come on now. Let's be honest.
I could. I've been accused of worse. And here's the deal about me. I have committed adultery.
Oh my gosh.
I have done everything wrong there is in making personal decisions about women.
Well,
I have been in rehab. We're going into the new year. I almost died twice, once in an airplane crash, 3 times, once when I got hit by lightning, 3rd time 5 years ago in Chicago. I still drink. I still work out. I still have fun. I live in a fraternity house in Tampa. Wendy lives at the beach and comes down here because she gets tired of fraternity house. She can take 1 weekend of it a month, sometimes 2. Okay. I'm going to continue to live here until one day you get the call.
Oh, come on.
And then you're going to say, and then you know what you're going to say? You're going to say, just like Frank Sinatra did.
You did it
At
your
least
way.
he did it his way and he had fun. And right now I'm laughing and having fun. And for every motherfucker out there that wishes they were me, and there are millions of you, millions of you. After you watch this documentary, you're going to be going, holy shit. to have lived one day of his life, whether it was the hard times or the good times, to have lived 1 minute of that life. Holy shit. Luckiest motherfucker alive. Luckiest. And now, according to Shane Douglas, I have mentally ill too. So guilty.
Well, I hope one day Shane Douglas goes to RicFlairDrip.com.
Instead of saying, for Shane, instead of saying I was the wildest motherfucker that ever lived, but the wildest son of a bitch that ever lived, I should have said, I'm the craziest son of a bitch that ever lived. I'll take that.
You know what? I think we all will, and I hope that everybody's celebrating with their family. This weekend is Christmas.
God,
getting
me
that
too.
Christmas spirit.
Let's just all live in peace, be happy. We're going into the holiday. A lot of you hate it, but I'm still here. For those that like me, I'm thankful for your support, but damn it, I'm guilty of a lot of things, and I own up to every bit of it. I'll take it. I deserve it. The good and the bad. I'm guilty of a lot, but I have never intentionally and meaningfully hurt anybody ever. Sometimes it just came with the territory of the job description, travel, whatever. But I even apologized to Morgan last night. I said, Morgan, I'm sorry, I've been a bad papa. I try.
Oh, come on now.
No, it's the truth. I feel bad. I cry it now a lot in this documentary about Reed.
Yeah.
I'll always feel like I could have been better for him.
Man, you can't blame yourself for that.
No, I know, but I mean, you know what I'm talking about. We've talked about it.
Yeah, we have.
There's no one else to blame.
He was a grown man. He made his own choices.
Yeah, I know. I love you.
We love you. We love Reed, and we can't wait to see this documentary. And man, celebrate with a little Ric Flair drip. Go to RicFlairDrip.com. Maybe even Santa will leave some Ric Flair drip in Shane Douglas's stocking. How about that? Maybe he'll chill out.
God, come on, Shane, smoke a joint, man. Get off the wagon. Join in, man. Come January, I'll get woo chews for you. They'll really mill you out.
Nobody's fussing and fighting when Ric Flair drip is around. Go to RicFlairDrip.com. Hope you have a very Merry Christmas. Hope Santa brings you all you want. And Monday morning, if he doesn't, Peacock will be there with a brand new documentary.
Peace on earth, goodwill to men. God bless.
We'll see you next week.
Love you, man.
Right here.
Love you, man.
On To Be the Man.
Happy holidays and